The Mir Space Station was a Soviet and then later a Russian space station that orbited the Earth from 1986 to 2001. It was one of the longest lasting space stations and held several records for humans in space, and was also a symbol of Russian aeronautical pride. However, in 1997, a fire and a collision with an unmanned supply craft threatened its future. This is the story of the 1997 Mir Space Station crisis. On October 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union launched the world's first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1. This is commonly known as the event that kicked off the space race. American President Dwight D. Eisenhower created NASA in 1958, and the American space program began. Later, President John F. Kennedy challenged the American public to get to the moon by the end of the 1960s.
Use this as our goal. And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge...
The Soviets then launched Yuri Gagarin, the first person ever in space, and later Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman in space, in 1961 and 1963 respectively. The United States ultimately landed on the moon on July 20th, 1969, winning the space race with Apollo 11. After the Americans landed on the moon, the Soviet space program then focused on building space stations and long-duration spaceflight. On April 19, 1971, the Soviet Union launched Salyut 1, the world's first space station. The United States then launched Skylab in 1973. In 1975, both the United States and the Soviets conducted the Apollo-Soyuz test project, the first multinational space mission. The United States and Soviet and later Russian cooperation would later form the backbone of international space corporations in the future. By the early 1980s, the Cold War had once again taken center stage in world affairs. Following the warming thaw of the 1970s, President Ronald Reagan then proposed the American space station named Freedom. This would be a joint cooperation between the Western nations of Europe, Canada, and Asia. In response, the Soviet Union created the Mir Space Station project. Mir means peace or village in Russian. The first component of Mir was launched on February 20th, 1986, from the Soviet spaceport known as Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan.
Shortly after midnight Moscow time, the big Soviet rocket lifted in orbit the base module of what is intended as a permanent manned space station. A statement by TASS, the official news agency, said the space station was launched in honor of next week's Communist Party Congress and was named Mir, the Russian word for peace.
The Mir station was unique for its use of a main core module in which other modules could be connected and disconnected around it. Over 10 years of the station's construction, more and more modules were added to the core module. In addition to the core module, 5 other modules were added. This included Kristall, Kavant modules 1 and 2, Priroda, and Spectre. In addition to that was the Progress unmanned supply craft and the manned Soyuz capsules. The station was completed in 1996. Following the fall of the Soviet Union in 1992 and the new Russian economy in tatters, funding for the Russian space station was hard to come by. In 1993, U.S. President Bill Clinton and Russian President Boris Yeltsin signed the Shuttle Mir program. Russia needed the money for their fledgling space agency from the Americans, and the United States hoped to gain more knowledge on Russia's work with long-duration spaceflight. On March 14, 1995, Norm Thagard became the first American on the Mir Space Station. Once American astronauts entered the space station for the first time, they noticed the station's aging nature and that it resembled a cramped lady breath, clogged with pipes, wiring, and scientific equipment. The station was prone to computer breakdowns and power failures. Also, cultural differences on work schedules between Russian and American crews also developed. However, the worst was yet to come. The first major crisis occurred on February 23, 1997, when a fire broke out on the Kavant 1 module. Russian cosmonauts Valery Korzun and Alexander Lazukhin were replacing a device known as a solid fuel oxygen generator, or SFOG, which is a type of oxygen candle. When Lazukhin replaced the device, a massive flame shot down from the length of the module. Smoke then filled the capsule, and fire blocked the Soyuz escape exits. After several minutes, the fire was contained.
Thanks, Judy. Well, not focusing on Mars now, but something else. Russia's space agency is preparing for Saturday's launch of a cargo ship carrying repair equipment to the ailing Mir Space Station. The ship is expected to dock with Mir Monday, but the crucial repair job to the space habitat has been put off until mid-July. CNN's Moscow bureau chief Jill Doherty reports Russian space officials want more prep time for Mir's team, the team both in orbit and the one on Earth.
At Star City, the cosmonaut training center outside Moscow, two of Russia's most experienced spacemen are simulating underwater the complex repair job their Mir colleagues are practicing for in space. The famous Sergei Krikalev, the first Russian cosmonaut to live aboard a U.S. space shuttle, is leading the exercises. He'll be the chief advisor when the cosmonauts on the Mir Space Station carry out the repairs for real less than 2 weeks from now. It's complex, difficult work, and because of that, Mission Control is giving the cosmonauts an extra 6 or 7 days to prepare.
It will be necessary to reconnect a number of power supplies. Wearing gloves on the suit, believe me, I've been in space 8 times, makes the work very complex.
The simulation laboratory watches every move.
The most important task is to connect the electricity plugs from the solar panels. They're important for the life support, and there are 9 of them, 8 of them located inside the module, and the 9th on the outside, and they have to locate them.
Back in space, the Mir crew had more problems. The gyro system that keeps the space station's solar panels pointed at the sun failed again. Without that system, the crew has to fire rocket engines periodically, but that burns up fuel. Mission Control said it found the cause of the problem and hoped the crew could repair it soon. Meanwhile, specially crafted repair parts for the disabled Spectre module, including a custom-designed hatch, will be launched toward the Mir this Saturday, expected to dock with it Monday. Jill Doherty, CNN, Moscow.
By far, the most serious crisis on the station occurred just several months later. On June 25, 1997, an unmanned Progress resupply craft collided with the Spectre module. The Progress M34 used a manual guidance computer called a Toru. The crew had difficulty with the Toru and docking of the Progress before. The Russian officials on the ground then deactivated the radar on the Progress, and the crew, which included British-American astronaut Mike Foale and cosmonaut Vasily Tespliev, had to then use laser rangefinders in order to find the Progress.
The crew had spent the previous weeks packing another Progress cargo ship with Mir's rubbish. They were told to send the heavily laden Progress out into space and, as before, turn it around and redock it manually.
I was totally ignorant of what they were doing. I had no idea what they were doing. No one at NASA knew what the Russians were doing.
Once again, Vasily only had the monitor as his guide. This time, Mission Control was worried that the radar on the automatic docking system had caused the monitor to fail during the previous manual attempt. So they made a crucial decision. They switched the radar off.
Tesbliev had used the TV camera on the Progress, but the Mir station was hard to make out on the monitor against the Earth's clouds. The speed and the distance were greatly misjudged, and the Progress smashed into the Spectre module, puncturing it and causing the module to decompress. The collision also damaged the solar arrays, cutting power to the station by 40%. The station was also starting to tumble. Foale used his knowledge of star maps to reorient the station and communicate the situation back to Earth. Spectre was sealed off and was never used again. The astronauts and some of the NASA officials criticized the Shuttle Mir program for its need to prioritize the mission over safety. The Shuttle Mir program ended in 1998.
Without the radar, Vasily wasn't given the cargo ship's speed or position. His only aid was the TV picture of Mir taken from Progress. But Mir was almost impossible to see.
На мониторе очень сложно было понять, где эта станция находится. Она была очень похожа на облака.
Sasha and I, meanwhile, tried to look out a window and find this thing.
They planned to pinpoint the cargo ship with laser rangefinders pointed out of the portholes to give Vasily backup distance and speed information.
Vasily now was showing a little impatience for us to find it and see it and give him a range mark.
Sasha had left his camera pointed at the Toru monitor. This recording from his camera has just been released to Horizon.
Things had gone wrong, very badly wrong. The range and the speed had been horribly misjudged.
Когда видел, что станция набегает очень быстро, то есть эта скорость я не ожидал, почему она так летит. Я чувствую, что как будто нет торможения. То есть я торможу, а торможения нет.
Смотрю, как этот грузовик проносится под нами, прямо здесь под иллюминатором.
Sasha looked extremely agitated, stood up and came erect and said, "Michael, в корабль, to the spacecraft."
Я говорю: Майкл, в корабль. И Майкл отсюда полетел туда.
That order that Sasha gave me, в корабль, don't stay and try and help us, don't let us use your expertise, don't let us do anything with you, just get out of our way to the spacecraft.
Не хватило тормозного пути, не хватило времени для того, чтобы этот грузовик увезти от станции.
Ну, он не акулу напомнил, он такой грозный. Я вижу, как вот это вот черное тело с этими вкраплениями проносится подо мной. Я прищуриваюсь, и в это время, значит, мощный такой удар потрясает станцию.
I felt through my fingers a shudder, a thump on the station, and I heard what seemed to be far off, a ka-thump. At that point, I knew we had been hit by the Progress.
И сразу сработала сигнализация, разгерм станции, начало падать давление, и началась закрутка станции.
The Progress had smashed into the solar panels. Mir was now slowly spinning out of control, and decompression had begun.
Despite its shortcomings and issues, the Mir Space Station provided a lot of work and insight on long-duration space travel. Valery Podyakov spent the longest single stay in space at 437 days. A multitude of science work and culture exchanges were also accomplished. By the late 1990s, the International Space Station, which was developed from the Freedom Project, began to take shape, leaving the future of Mir uncertain. At one point, a private company wanted to use the space station as a filming set, and the station began to appear in movies and television, from South Park to the 1999 movie Virus starring Jamie Lee Curtis.
Vladnet Tibetsky, Bodat Comrade Balsted. Ai! Porchat!
The Mir Space Station lasted for 15 years as opposed to only 5 as it was designed for. On March 23, 2001, the Mir Space Station was deorbited over the South Pacific Ocean and burned up in the atmosphere. It is thought that the Mir Space Station and the current International Space Station will provide a launch pad for humanity to venture out into the cosmos and later into Mars.